Hey guys, Miss Christopherson. Happy Friday to you. I hope everything's going well. We're going to talk a little bit about the Protist Kingdom today, and this video should be interesting. I have a baby napping on me right now, and she could wake up at any moment, so you might be able to hear um, sweet Madeline here in a second. Let's hope not, though. This video, I think you guys remember, I can't stop or pause. It's one take, one take. So we'll see how it goes, okay? But we're going to talk a little bit about protists. Protists are wicked cool. So far, you've talked about bacteria and viruses. These are kind of the critters that you probably don't know much about, okay? But before we get going, up at the top of your notes, you guys have a little chart to fill in. You have this on all of your kingdom notes, and I'm actually going to share Tatiana's PowerPoint that she mailed me that a lot of you guys did not on time, but we won't get into that right now. Just saying. So if you guys could, where it says kingdom, let's put down Protista in your notes, or you can just simply put down Protists. That would be fine. Okay. Are they prokaryotic or eukaryotic? These guys right here are going to be eukaryotic. So just simply put U in, or EU, or you can write out eukaryotic if you want to. The only thing that's going to be prokaryotic is going to be your bacteria cells. That is it. Okay, so eukaryotic again is basically they have membrane-bound organelles, they have a nucleus, all that good stuff. And she has really good pictures through this as well. So kind of pay attention to the pictures. Okay. Are they uni or multicellular? They're actually going to be both. And you guys could put uni/multi, or you can simply just put both in the chart. That would be fine. So you're going to have the majority of these guys that are unicellular, which means it's only one single cell that's living. But we actually have some that are multicellular, and they're thought to be the ancestors to plants. What? Okay, pretty cool stuff. All right. Are they auto or hetero? They're actually going to be both. Okay. So you guys can put both, or you can put auto/hetero. So what does this mean? It means that they can make their own food, and it also means that they can be consumers. Guys, this group of Protista is ginormous. They are huge, and I guarantee you in your lifetime, you're going to see this kingdom get split up into several of them. Kind of like when I grew up in high school, I only learned about 5 kingdoms. They split apart the bacteria into the eubacteria and archaea bacteria in my lifetime. So I think you guys will see the same thing, okay? All right, so let's look at some of her interesting facts. They can cause diseases to humans, and that's actually something that we're going to investigate once we get done talking about fungus. We're going to talk about how these guys can be pathogens, and those are things that cause diseases. And actually in this PowerPoint today, I'm going to give you an example of one of them. It is called the brain-eating amoeba. Gotta love it, okay? Interesting fact number 2. Malaria, which everybody has heard of before, that's actually caused by a protist. A lot of people say, oh, it's caused by a mosquito. What it actually is that it's caused by a protist that the mosquito is carrying. The mosquito is just a flying syringe that actually transports that around. This right here is actually going to be the plasmodium. Okay. Interesting fact 3. Seaweed. Anytime you guys see seaweed, you probably think it's actually a plant. This is actually a protist, and the reason why it's not a plant is because it doesn't have true root stems or leaves, even though they can reach the height of some like 2-story, 3-story buildings. They can be huge. But we're going to talk a little bit about seaweed, but they are actually going to be a protist as well. All right. If you cut an amoeba in half, the half with the nucleus will survive and the other half will die. Kind of cool. On Tuesday, you guys are actually going to see amoeba. They are so cool. Love them, love them, love them, love them, love them. Okay. They're actually going to be one of the hardest ones to find in the microscope. You actually got to look for kind of like a pile of throw up that's moving around. Kind of gross, but hey, you get it. Okay. All right, interesting fact 5. Giardia is a protist that causes serious diarrhea. People usually get this from drinking water, eating food that has it in it. This is why if you guys ever go camping and they tell you to never drink water that's out there unless you purify it. If I have any outdoorsy people, you probably know what I'm saying, but probably the majority of you are like, whatever, Miss Chris, I'm not going to do that. You can actually get this tiny little organism that will rock your world. Animals get it oftentimes because they'll just go up and drink out of any type of puddle. And where the Giardia comes from is that it comes from the feces or the poop of rodents. Okay, so like raccoons and things like that. Kind of gross. So basically you're drinking poop water. Good times. All right, some examples. You got Trichomonaeus. You got, I don't know what this one is, but it sounds a little interesting. Just look at the pictures. Euglena, you guys are going to see this on Tuesday. We're going to talk about it today. This looks like a dinoflagellate. I'm not quite sure what this particular one is, but we're going to talk about dinoflagellates today too. Okay. This one right here is looks like it's a type of algae. Okay, really cool stuff. It doesn't look like it would be a living organism, but it actually is. And how I know it's algae is if you check it out, it's green. Okay. This looks like another type of algae, or it could, actually I would say it is an algae. You have some algae that can actually swim around, which is kind of cool. Okay. All right, Tatiana, let's everybody give her a hand. All right, Tatiana. Okay. All right. Let's move on to our notes, okay? Let's get inspired, okay? If you guys recall, I had this at the beginning of the bacteria one. I love these videos just because it kind of shows you a big picture of what's going on. And this at the beginning is amazing because it shows you literally all the protists that can be in one single drop of water, okay? All right, here we go. A super secret. Hey, watch this right here. I love this. Wait, not yet. Right here. Watch what happens to the drop of water. How they zoom in on it. It's literally what it's like. So cool. Kind of creepy if you think about it. You can't see them. Because they're so small. Protists. Oh my god, who's pumped? I'm pumped. Madeline's pumped. Not really. She's asleep. But let's talk about some protists. Oh yeah. Okay, where's my PowerPoint? Alright, so that's awesome. Alright, so let's start filling these things in. So we said that they were eukaryotic. Just as a quick review, let's review the difference between these two things. And you guys can write this somewhere near these diagrams. So prokaryotic cells are not going to have a nucleus, and I guarantee you that is a question that will be on that EOC. So prokaryotic cells have no nucleus, and eukaryotic cells do. So inside of here, for us, that is our genetic material. Here, it's just a blob, okay? Again, guys, the only thing that will be prokaryotic is going to be your bacteria, okay? The second thing is that prokaryotic cells, they do not have membrane-bound organelles. And what does that mean? And hopefully you guys remember this from your bacteria notes. They're not going to have chloroplasts. They're not going to have mitochondria. They're not going to have those organelles that we have. And actually, if you compare these two, they're very simple. If you notice, one organelle that we do have in common is going to be ribosomes because they don't actually have a membrane surrounding them, okay? Kind of a cool thing. All right, so that's going to be the two differences between those, okay? All right, so what we're going to do is I am by no means going to cover a lot of the protists. There are bajillions of them. Like I said, you're going to see this kingdom broken down into several of them. But I'm going to kind of hit the highlights. You really only need to know about 3 of them, but I'm going to throw in some other ones that I think are pretty cool, okay? And I have tons of videos for you guys. We're not going to get through these notes today. Miss Hartsock, I thought initially that we would, but I don't know what I was thinking. Who knows, okay? All right, so before we hop to those guys, let's talk about where we can find these things. Now, in the video, they really focused on ponds, all right? And that's going to be a huge one. So for habitat, why don't you guys just simply put down freshwater, okay? When I say freshwater, that could be ponds, rivers, or streams, any of those things. The greener, the goopier the water, the better it is. If you check out this thing, Lord, oh my gosh, okay? This is like the mother lode. If you guys were to go to Lake Jordan, there are things in there, but not as much as what you'll see in here, okay? All right, you can also find them in the ocean, okay? Ocean's huge, so you're going to have a lot of protists inside of the ocean as well. You can find them inside of the soil, which is really pretty cool. You got some amoebas that can hang out in there, all right, because soil's actually oftentimes going to be fairly damp, okay? Not all soil, okay? You can actually find them in other organisms, which is pretty cool. One of the coolest labs that I've ever done, and we obviously are not going to do it, and I apologize, but basically you can take termites, okay, and termites predominantly eat wood. Now, the crazy thing about termites eating wood is that they lack the ability to break it down, okay? The wood is cellulose. We can't even break down cellulose. But what they have inside of their tummy here, so this is the stomach of a termite, is they're going to have these tiny little microorganisms inside of them that actually help them break down that cellulose. So in my lab, I had a termite, I squished it, and I put it under a microscope slide, and I saw this guy just like swimming around like crazy. It was really freaking awesome, okay? So if you have a microscope at home, feel free to find a termite, squish it, and check it out, okay? All right, so we're going to break down these protists into 3 main groups. We're actually only going to talk about 2 of them, okay? So the first one is going to be our animal-like protists, okay, because they're animal-like. So where you guys have AKA in your notes, let's write down zooplankton. A lot of you guys want to say zooplankton. No, 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 no. It's zooplankton, okay? So that is their fancy schmancy name, okay? We call them zooplankton. They're animal-like, okay? Let's talk about one of our very first guys, okay? Beside the paramecium, if you guys could put a little star beside this. This is going to be one of the big boys, okay? So that is an example of the paramecium. You guys are actually going to see paramecium on Tuesday, real live ones, okay? All right. So paramecium are unicellular. Where you guys can put this unicellular is where you have this picture in your notes. Why don't you write it somewhere near that, okay? Or you can put it under information. It doesn't matter, okay? So where you have information, or you can put it under this picture, just know that they are unicellular. So this huge structure that you see right here is only one individual cell with all these guys in there, okay? So they are unicellular. Now, under information, why don't you guys put down move using cilia, okay? So I want you to write all this down. They're going to move using cilia, and cilia are really cool. They're actually tiny hairs that cover that whole entire body. They're actually kind of similar to the pili that you guys saw in bacteria. The big difference is that pili doesn't help out with movement. They're going to help out with reproduction and attachment, while these guys right here are going to be moving around like crazy. I love this picture because basically it's just focusing in on the cilia, okay? So you guys actually saw some cilia, example of cilia in the previous, that video that I just showed you there, but here, whoops, let me show you some cilia, okay? Now, if you look closely, you can see all the little hairs. Do you see the little hairs moving around? Okay, and that's one thing I want you guys to try to find on the lab on Tuesday. They're covered with it, okay? And that's just one example of us looking at that today, okay? So they're made up of cilia. All right, so next, let's talk about under information as well. This actually pertains to all of them, but we're just going to put it under paramecium just because, okay? Any protist that is in an aquatic environment is going to have something called a contractile vacuole, okay? So you guys can simply just put down contractile vacuole, all right? And you need to know what it actually does. And what it actually does is right down here. Your contractile vacuole is actually like a water pump. It looks like a crazy star looking structure, but it's a water pump. And these guys live in aquatic environments, like I said before. Well, as you guys will know, if you spend all day in a pool, your skin's going to get wrinkly, right? And if you remember from cell transport, why it's getting wrinkly is because your body is absorbing that water. Well, the same thing's going to happen to these guys. When they're hanging out in the fluid environment, the liquid environment, they're going to absorb a lot of that water. What these contractile vacuoles do is they get really big with some of that water and they literally squirt it out. So they fill up and then go squirt, fill up, squirt, fill up, squirt. Really freaking cool. If they didn't have these contractile vacuoles, they would literally burst. They would not be able to survive in the environments that they do. Okay? So contractile vacuoles act like a water pump and it's going to regulate osmotic pressure. All right? So let's see one of these boys in action, okay? And I don't want to hear this lady talk just because she's annoying. But here it goes, squirt. Okay, spits out the water, fills up again, okay? And then it goes squirt, squirt. Oh, JK, we're going over here. Oh, watch it squirt, squirt. Whoop, looks kind of weird, all right? But that is showing a contractile vacuole. In another video clip, you're going to see another one. Okay? Pretty cool. All right. Okay. Under method of feeding, if you guys could, just simply put down heterotroph. Okay? You don't have to put down any of this other stuff. So method of feeding, heterotroph, because they're animal-like. Okay? You guys can kind of put two and two together there. All right? How they feed is actually pretty crazy. Okay? So if you guys could take a look up at this diagram right here, what they have is they have this cornucopia looking thing, okay? I don't know if you guys know what a cornucopia is. That's what all the pumpkins and things like that go in for Thanksgiving. But the cilia not only helps them move, but it can shove some food right into here. And what we call it is we call it the gullet, okay? So once it goes in there, it forms a food vacuole. So you see this little food vacuole that has little critters inside of it. What they actually do is that they can put enzymes inside of that food vacuole, liquefy it, absorb what they need, and then they spit out the trash through a process called exocytosis. Not that you need to know that. It's really kind of cool. All right, so if you want to see an example of one that is actually feeding, okay, see the cilia moving, and if you guys notice, stuff's flying in this opening here into this food vacuole, okay, and actually you can see, squirt, you can see some contractile vacuoles moving around too. I think this is one of them that's going to squirt here in a second, okay, squirt, and there's one over here too. Yep, I just missed that one. All right, but if you notice, it's actually feeding right now, all right, and it detaches, and then therefore that they can put enzymes into it and then eat, okay? Kind of cool, all right? So that is, oh, there's an amoeba, love them. All right, so that's your paramecium. Now, how do they reproduce? They're going to reproduce by something called binary fission. So in a reproduction, why don't you guys simply put down binary fission? You guys learned about this back in the bacteria unit. Basically, all that it is it's a means of asexual reproduction where it duplicates its contents, okay, kind of like what you see right here, and then it splits into two. These two are identical, all right? That's why bacteria are so vicious, because not only can they pass on a plasmid that allows them to be resistant to certain antibiotics, but then they can basically make tons of copies of themselves. Yeah, that has nothing to do with the paramecium, but I didn't get to say that with you guys, okay? So binary fission. And actually put asexual beside that if you guys don't mind, okay? All right, the next one is going to be conjugation, and I'm sorry that that looks like that. So conjugation is going to be a means of sexual reproduction. So what they do is that they can actually line up side by side, like you see right here, exchange genetic material, and call it a day, okay? What I love about this diagram right here is that it shows them not undergoing conjugation, but also binary fission, how both those things can kind of tie in together. Now, again, the benefit of sexual reproduction is that you get some genetic variety, all right? And I've nailed that with you guys over and over and over again. Asexual, you're making an identical copy of yourself. So if there's something wrong with you, then all your copies are going to have that that problem as well, okay? So that is your paramecium. Good times. All right, let's go to an amoeba. If you guys could put a star beside an amoeba, please. This is another type of zooplankton, okay? Amoebas are so wicked cool, all right? And actually, they're going to be the hardest thing for you to find in a microscope, okay? All right. So under information or under the picture, if you guys could put down that these guys are unicellular as well, okay? So write down unicellular. If you were to take a look at this diagram, they're going to have contractile vacuoles, and all these other circles are going to be food vacuoles. Kids sometimes think that all of these are cells. They're not. This whole structure is a cell, okay? All right, so under information, if you guys could, why don't you put down that these are going to be moving using a pseudopod, okay? So amoebas move using a pseudopod. Pseudo means false, pod means foot, so basically they're going to be moving with a false foot, which is so freaking cool. They're literally going to move like a blob, okay? And I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. This looks like a pile of throw up, all right? Unfortunately for you guys, under the microscope, you're not going to see anything this pretty. I know that I just called a pile of throw up pretty. And actually you won't see anything good like this either, but this is going to kind of give you an idea of what you should look for. So when you have your amoeba on, you want to look to see that these contents that are moving. And if you guys noticed, all these little feet coming out here, pseudopod, 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 all of those are pseudopods, okay? So they mush their cellular contents that shove out those things. It's literally, literally, literally a blob. They're so cool. All right, so again, you got to look for movement on your lab on Tuesday. All right, I love an amoeba. They're so fantastic, okay? All right, so right up here, how do they eat? If you guys could, under method of feeding, write down heterotrophs, okay? You don't have to put anything else, just that they're heterotrophs. Now, this right here, guys, is a crappy way to go out, in my opinion, okay? So what they literally do is, if you check out this picture right up here, here's my amoeba, here's a little dinoflagellate or green algae, okay? What they do is that they literally extend that pseudopod around that organism and then engulf it. They engulf it into a food vacuole. So literally what I think it would be like is a layer of slime coming over you, and then all of a sudden you're living in the slime, which would be a heck of a way to go out. All right. So this video, I do want this sound for because it's a little ridiculous. This is going to show a amoeba eating a huge paramecium, okay, which is not very good for the paramecium. And they got screens. Woo. So there's your paramecium. If you notice, it's extending out the pseudopods. That guy's not going to have to eat for a long time. So I'm going to speed it up. So these two are going to come together and meet, and that guy will forever be stuck inside that amoeba. I'll put enzymes in there. So it's toast. He's like, oh my god, I think it's going to work out here in a second. That music cracks me up. It's so funny. Good times, good times. Okay, heck of a way to go out though, right guys? Okay. All right, so, we'll come back to that one. All right, so how do they reproduce? Okay, if you guys could put down binary fission, please, and that is asexual. That's basically where they start off here, they copy their nucleus, they split everything apart. It's basically glorified cell cycle or mitosis. Okay, so they make an identical copy of each other. Okay. Here is actually a picture of one undergoing binary fission. It looks a little painful, all right, but this used to be one, and then they split apart and then called it a day. Okay. All right, so the brain-eating amoeba, this really has nothing to do with anything. It's just fun to show you. It's from a program called Monsters Inside of Me. Have you guys ever seen that? Unfortunately for you guys, I'm going to show you some very disturbing clips when we get to the animals, especially with worms. And the reason why I say unfortunately for you guys is because you're stuck with me for a long amount of time, so we get to go way in detail with the animals. So we're going to have a pretty gross out day. But Monsters Inside of Me is a super creepy show. When I used to watch it, I would want to go like take a bath in bleach just because it's so gross. Okay, but here we go.
Inside me.
The brain-eating amoeba.
If you get infected with the brain-eating amoeba, you're in big trouble. This parasite is an out-and-out killer. But while its actions often have deadly consequences, the amoeba hijacks the brain for a benign reason: to find food and shelter. Inside the brain, the amoeba has a perfect environment to feed and reproduce. You have food, heat, moisture. It's perfect for them to live their lives. The amoeba has a two-pronged attack. First, it hijacks the host cells using special feet called pseudopods. Then, the amoeba cuts a hole in the cell wall. And when the contents of the cell leak out, the amoeba eats them. Not only are the amoeba ruthless killers, they also have a cunning method of evading the body's immune system.
The amoeba can defend itself by forming a coat, which is called a cyst, and this coat surrounds the amoeba and is impervious to the host's immune system.
When the
So what you see right there, these are white blood cells that say, hey, invader, invader, invader. It goes and attaches itself to that amoeba. And basically because of that coat, you're going to see what happens.
body's white blood cells attack, the amoeba forms its protective coat. The white blood cells latch onto the coat, but can't get through. Then the amoeba sheds the coat and escapes unharmed, leaving the white blood cells behind. What happens is that when the amoeba gets into the brain, in a sense, it's holding the brain hostage. So when the body sends in its immune system to try to defuse the hostage situation, often it does even more damage as a result. The amoeba lives in a cyst in sediment on the bottom of lakes. As the water warms, the amoeba emerges from the cyst and begins to divide. At this stage, the amoeba can infect humans. When conditions become unfavorable, the amoeba forms a cyst again, and the life cycle repeats. And even in warm water, some simple measures can protect swimmers.
The way to prevent deaths from occurring, first of all, is to educate the public about this disease. And secondly, it would be very important to wear nose plugs when doing recreational activities such as diving or wakeboarding, where you're underwater quite a bit.
What? Okay. So usually when I show kids this video, they freak out, okay? Because number one, they're saying, Miss Chris, I go to Lake Jordan, I do all these things, and I'm not wearing no nose plugs, okay? I haven't heard of any cases of this here in North Carolina. It's really common, actually. I shouldn't say really common, but it has shown its ugly face up in Minnesota. Minnesota has like 10,000 lakes, okay? They got, you okay, baby? They got all sorts of lakes, so people are always swimming in those things. So the thing is like when you fall, the nose plugs, let's say that you fell off of a wakeboard or a sea-doo or one of those things, and water shoots up your nose. I'm sure everybody's had that happen before. That can shoot that amoeba up into your brain, okay? Don't worry, we're fine here in North Carolina, but I just think that it's a fun thing to share, okay? I don't know why I'm weird, okay? All right, so Miss Hartsock, I think right here, I'm going to ask you to... My baby's making weird noises. You okay? I'm going to ask you to hit stop it, okay? And you can pick up after this part on Monday, okay? And actually, tell you what, I'll make a new video for Monday. So at this point right here, you can just stop the video, okay? And with the time left over, you guys can work on your homework. I know you got a guest speaker today, okay? So enjoy that. I miss you like crazy. And I want to kill you for not turning in those projects, but you're lucky that I miss you and that I love you, okay? You guys take care, keep being smart, and we'll finish this video, a new video, on Monday, okay? All right, bye-bye.